My girlfriend wanted an open relationship to rekindle the passion, then called me weak when I refused. So I broke up and caught her off guard. On February 15, 2024, exactly 2 days after my initial post, I returned to the subreddit with an update on my relationship dilemma. It had been a whirlwind of emotions since I first shared my story, and I felt compelled to express my gratitude to the community right from the start. To everyone who took the time to read my original post and offer their thoughts, thank you sincerely. Your insights meant more than I can express. I didn't rush into anything. Instead, I spent those intervening days carefully poring over the majority of the comments. Some were straightforward, others deeply analytical, but many provided genuinely helpful advice that helped me navigate my conflicted feelings. For context, I'll reference the original post here briefly. It detailed how my girlfriend of 3 years had unexpectedly proposed opening our relationship, citing a desire to reclaim lost youthful experiences and supposedly enhance our bond, which I firmly rejected due to my past traumas and firm stance on monogamy. After much internal deliberation, fueled by the wisdom from the Reddit hive mind, I decided to confront the situation head-on. Yesterday evening, I arranged to meet her in a quiet cafe, the kind of neutral ground where tough conversations feel a bit less intimidating. My heart was pounding as I sat across from her, but I knew clarity was essential. I began by telling her that I'd spent considerable time reflecting on her proposal for an open relationship. It wasn't a knee-jerk reaction anymore. I'd weighed the pros and cons, replayed our history in my mind, and even considered if there was any room for compromise. But before jumping to conclusions, I wanted to understand her perspective better, so I posed a direct question. Why had she brought up the idea of an open relationship so suddenly, without any prior hints or discussions? She paused for a moment, her eyes shifting slightly as if searching for the right words, and then explained that the concept had come from conversations with her close friends. Apparently, they'd shared stories about how exploring non-monogamy had invigorated their own partnerships, making them feel more connected and alive. She framed it as an experiment we could try together, something that might inject new energy into our intimacy and deepen our love by allowing us to appreciate each other more fully after experiencing freedom. It sounded rehearsed, almost like she'd borrowed the rationale from a self-help article or a podcast episode on modern relationships. I listened attentively, trying to keep my emotions in check, but inside, doubts swirled. Her explanation felt too polished, too detached from our actual dynamic. Pressing further, because the red flags from my initial post were still waving furiously in my mind, I asked the question that had been gnawing at me. Did she already have someone specific in mind when she suggested this? Was there a colleague, a friend, or an acquaintance who'd sparked this sudden interest? She met my gaze steadily and denied it outright, insisting that it was purely about us as a couple, not about pursuing anyone else. No hidden motives, no secret crushes. Just a genuine curiosity born from hearing others' positive experiences. I nodded, acknowledging her response, and even thanked her for being honest in that moment. It was important to me to handle this maturely, without accusations flying prematurely. However, as the conversation progressed, I laid out my own boundaries clearly and unequivocally. I reiterated that I was committed to a strictly monogamous relationship. That's what I'd always wanted, what I'd communicated from the very beginning of our exclusivity, and what aligned with my values after being burned by infidelity in a previous partnership. Her proposal, no matter how well-intentioned she claimed it to be, had shattered the foundation of trust we'd built over 3 years. It wasn't just about the idea itself, though that was incompatible with my views, but the way it emerged out of nowhere, like a storm cloud on a clear day. That abruptness made me question everything. Our communication, her satisfaction, and whether unspoken desires had been simmering beneath the surface. I explained how it had left me mentally unraveling for days, replaying scenarios in my head, and ultimately concluding that continuing would only breed resentment and insecurity on both sides. For the sake of our individual well-being, I told her, I believed it was best to end things here. I wished her all the best moving forward, genuinely, because despite the hurt, I still cared about her happiness, and began gathering my things to leave the table. That's when the atmosphere shifted dramatically. She didn't take it calmly. Instead, anger flared up in her eyes, more intensely than I'd anticipated. Her voice rose as she accused me of being overly insecure, of letting my past dictate our future without giving us a fair shot. She hurled every insult imaginable, calling me controlling, paranoid, even weak for not being adventurous enough to explore new relational territories. It stung, hearing those words from someone I'd loved so deeply, but I refused to engage in a shouting match. The cafe was starting to draw glances from other patrons, so I stood up swiftly, muttered a quiet goodbye, and walked out, my mind racing but my resolve firm. As I made my way home, my phone began buzzing incessantly, calls, texts, all laced with that same furious tone, demanding explanations or pleading for reconsideration. It became overwhelming, so I made the difficult but necessary choice to block her number, creating the space I needed to process. Living separately with our respective families made the logistics of the breakup mercifully straightforward. There were no shared apartments to vacate, no joint possessions to divide, just the emotional disentanglement, which, while painful, felt cleaner than it could have been. Up to that point, everything had unfolded without major complications, and I was beginning to feel a tentative sense of relief, like shedding a weight I'd been carrying unknowingly. But life, as it often does, threw in a twist today that confirmed my instincts. A mutual friend reached out, her voice hesitant over the phone, mentioning that she'd spotted my now ex with a male coworker last night, the very same evening we'd broken up. They were out together, appearing quite cozy, and my friend wondered if I was aware or if everything was okay between us. I informed her matter-of-factly that we'd ended things just yesterday, so no, I wasn't surprised, but thank you for letting me know. In that instant, the pieces clicked. She must have had this person in mind all along, perhaps even before broaching the open relationship idea. It was the validation of my deepest suspicions, yet strangely, the pain wasn't as excruciating as I'd feared. Maybe I'd braced myself for it, drawing from the scars of my previous cheating experience. Or perhaps my mindset had evolved. I'd grown more resilient, focusing on what I could control rather than dwelling on betrayals. These days, my philosophy centers on forward momentum, moving on without obsessing over unchangeable factors. Whether she'd been unfaithful during our relationship or if this was a post-breakup rebound didn't matter anymore. Digging into it would only prolong the agony. Instead, I'm channeling my energy into self-improvement and new adventures. I've got a solo trip to South Korea planned for later this month, a chance to immerse myself in a vibrant culture, try new foods, and reflect on personal growth away from the drama. It's exciting, a reminder that life offers endless opportunities beyond one relationship. Reflecting deeper on the whole ordeal, I realize how pivotal those Reddit comments were in empowering me to act decisively. Many emphasize that trust, once fractured, is hard to rebuild, especially when core values clash so fundamentally. Others shared similar stories of partners suggesting open relationships as a covert way to justify existing affairs, which resonated profoundly. It wasn't about being the a-hole, as the top comments affirmed. I wasn't, for prioritizing my mental health over a potentially toxic continuation. In fact, attempting to salvage it, as I had in my past failed relationship, likely would have led to more heartache, resentment building like a slow poison. Expanding on my emotional journey, the days leading up to the breakup were a roller coaster. Sleepless nights where I'd alternate between anger at her audacity and sorrow over losing what we'd built. Our 3 years together weren't flawless, but they were filled with genuine moments. Lazy weekends binge-watching shows, supporting each other through family stresses, and those intimate meetups that kept the spark alive despite living apart. We maintained a healthy physical connection, 3 to 4 times a week, as I'd clarified in response to a commenter's question about intimacy complaints. She'd assured me it wasn't about dissatisfaction in that area, which made her proposal even more baffling at first. But hindsight reveals patterns I might have overlooked, subtle changes in her social circle, more frequent mentions of friends' progressive lifestyles, perhaps planting seeds for this shift. When she reacted with such vitriol during the breakup, it unveiled a side of her I'd rarely seen, defensive, almost desperate. It made me wonder if guilt played a role, or if she truly believed I was overreacting. Either way, blocking her was self-preservation. Constant contact would have eroded my resolve. And learning about the coworker? It was like the final puzzle piece, but instead of devastation, it brought closure. I'm not bitter, if anything, it reinforces that I dodged a bullet. My past cheating trauma taught me resilience. Therapy sessions back then helped me reframe pain as a teacher, not a destroyer. Looking ahead, I'm optimistic. The South Korea trip isn't just a vacation, it's a symbol of rebirth. I'll wander Seoul's bustling streets, savor kimchi and street food, visit ancient temples for quiet contemplation. Maybe I'll even journal about this experience, turning it into a lesson for future relationships. Always communicate boundaries early, trust your gut on red flags, and never compromise core values for love. Reddit's advice echoed this: prioritize self-respect, and the right partner will align naturally. I thanked her for her answers, but I stated I wanted a strictly monogamous relationship. Also, I told her how my trust for the relationship was shaken after her proposal, and I wanted to break up with her. I wished her the best and prepared to leave the table. She got angry, a bit too angry at me. She called me insecure and called me every name possible in the book. I left the table quickly after hearing these and went back home. She started calling me, texting me in an angry tone, and I just had to block her. We both live with our families, so the breakup was quickly done. No need to take my belongings from the shared home or anything. There is no problem until here. Today, a friend told me she saw her with a male coworker the same night and asked me if I knew it. I told her we broke up yesterday, so yes, she definitely had someone in mind. It does not hurt as much as I thought it would. Maybe it's because I was ready for such a thing. Maybe my mentality changed after the last time I got cheated on. My mindset is all about moving on and not worrying about things I cannot control anymore. Had she been cheating during the relationship or not, I do not care to know. All I can do now is to move on and live my best life. I have a trip to South Korea this month, and I want to enjoy it. Looks like someone left Pandora's box open, and now all the demons are out to play. I mean, proposing an open relationship out of the blue? That's like suggesting a vegan diet to a lion, it's just not going to fly. And then getting angry when the other person decides they're not up for it? Talk about adding insult to injury. But hey, at least now you can see clearly through the fog of love. She wanted to open the relationship, you wanted to close the door on her. Sounds like a classic case of irreconcilable differences. And let's not forget the cherry on top, catching her red-handed with a coworker on the rebound. But you know what they say, once bitten, twice shy. You've been through this rodeo before, and now you're ready to ride off into the sunset, solo style. What would you have done? Next up, a friend turned foe. My best friend and I have been training partners in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for over a decade. We're both high-level practitioners. He's a black belt and also one of our school's coaches. I'm just a brown belt who trains several times a week. My buddy, let's call him Chance, has been coaching beginners classes for the last 2 years. Chance is in his early 50s, I'm in my early 40s. So last year, a young couple decides they want to try Jiu-Jitsu, and they have to go through Chance's basics class. They instantly fall in love with it. Jana, a 26-year-old female, and Tanner, a 28-year-old male, are there for the basics class 3 to 4 times a week. They've even decided to start taking private lessons from Chance on the weekends. Within 3 months, Jana and Tanner split but are still showing up to the classes and taking privates, just separately now. Come to find out, Jana started throwing the FME eyes at Chance at every opportunity, and Chance, being the man he is, couldn't resist. Needless to say, that was kept very hush-hush over the last few months. About a week ago, Chance tells me that he had to call the cops on Jana because he was trying to distance himself from her, and she had subsequently broken into his house and started breaking crap. So naturally, he called the cops to have the incident documented but decides not to press charges. Meanwhile, I'm over here with my bag of popcorn, just watching this dumpster fire take place. Jana tells Tanner the truth about Chance and how she was cheating on him with Chance for a couple of months before the breakup. Jana is getting crazy jealous, starts stalking Chance, among other things. I'm totally here for it. Being happily married, I don't get to indulge in this kind of BS very often, and not at arm's length like this. I get home after Chance tells me about having to call the cops on Jana, and just had to tell my wife. As I get into the details, I notice that she gets a somber look on her face. Normally, she's all about these drama stories that I bring home from work or from jiu-jitsu, but this was different. I didn't get halfway through my story before she cuts me off, says she has a headache, and goes to lie down. At first, I didn't think anything of it, but this was so out of the blue for her. She loves hearing gossip. I go to check on her in our room after I get out of the shower, she's crying. That's when the red flags start flying out like streamers. So, to prevent a long story from being any longer, Chance was also fing my wife. My wife was falling in love with him. And for some reason, Chance shows up to jiu-jitsu class with a black eye and in an Uber because, oddly, all 4 tires on his truck got flat at the same time. Chance, the black belt Casanova, spreading his charm like he spreads his legs for anyone with a pulse. And then there's Jana, the starry student who's more interested in getting a piece of Chance than mastering the armbar. Classic. Turns out Chance isn't just rolling on the mats, he's rolling in the hay with your wife too. Talk about a double leg takedown straight to the heart. Here's the unwitting referee in this cage match of emotions. May your punches be as sharp as your wit, and may your jiu-jitsu moves be as slick as your friend's excuse for why he's always late to practice. Do you have a similar story? Share it with us in the comments below. Lastly, a divorce that never truly severed the ties that bind. Wife turned side chick. I hope this is the correct space for my experience. However, I'm filled with so much hurt and pain, it seems the best place for what I'm dealing with right now. I'm a 36-year-old female, and I made the decision 2 years ago to divorce my ex-husband due to inconsistencies in our marriage when it came to progressing our lives forward financially. He quite frankly never wanted more for us. He'd quit jobs all the time and leave all the bills to me at any given point in the marriage. Of course, there's more, but that was a main concern of mine. At that point, none of the things ever included infidelity throughout our 10-year marriage and 13 years of knowing one another. Our chemistry had just never dwindled. Both very much in love, I'd say, still up until the last month or so. I thought so. We decided to stay close friends or in a situationship. I hear that term used loosely. Basically, it's almost as if the marriage never ended, and we just don't officially live together, although we've tried again countless times over the years. Which brings me to 2 weeks ago. He was here after a recent job loss. I told him yet again he was more than welcome to stay here with me. I could feel he was worried about losing his job this time more than he was in the past because I wasn't that security net anymore, the wife to pick up all the pieces. This day, I walked over to console him, a simple hug and a peck on the cheek before I left for work. While he was sitting at my computer desk, I leaned for the kiss. His phone rings on silent, and an unfamiliar woman's name popped up. He quickly grabs my face with both his hands and plants a big kiss on my lips instead, telling me, "I love you so much," as my eyes are diverted down from the screen of his phone. He uses his arms to try to conceal what I am seeing, but it's too late. In that moment, my heart stops before it drops out of my chest into my gut. I'm panicked, but I try to calmly leave the room. I didn't want him to see the emotions on my face, so I play his game. I say, "Wow, thanks for the kiss," and I walk into the bathroom with the lights off, heartbroken because this isn't the first time she's called. I immediately remember I saw him hurry to flip the phone over when I walked into my bedroom the previous week when it rang on silent, but this time, I had proof because I saw her name. I finally go on to work, and I cried my heart out. He randomly texts me, "Are you okay?" So now he's trying to gauge my temperament so he can plan his next moves, I assume. Hours later, after I'd calmed down, I texted him to just leave my key at my place and leave and not return. He called me over 30 times before I answered. I told him I wasn't stupid, and let's not pretend like I am. We aren't even officially anything, so just go be with her and leave me and my son alone. Then it hit me, he'd been talking to her at my place while my son has been in the next room and I've been at work. Wow. Things begin to start adding up for me, like him starting random arguments with me in the mornings and petty fights around noon, just to take off without any explanation, then come back late that evening, apologetic, when he didn't ever have to come back to my place at all. Was he going to be with her? His sudden interest in pay-per-view fights that, in a 10-year marriage, I've never heard him speak about liking. He'd leave at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., come back to my place at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. from watching. Was he going to be with her? Also, when he's not at my place, his inability to text consistently, or him in my bed late at night texting in bed behind my back. Was he with her or texting with her? Ever since I asked him to leave, I just cannot deal with this pain. How long had he been lying to me? Seeing this other person or people? Lying to us all? In retrospect, I guess he doesn't owe me any explanation because we are divorced. However, we don't act like we are. We still move and behave as a unit. He just fixed my car 3 weeks ago, helps me with the bills, took me to my doctor's appointments regularly, in the actual appointment room with me, asking my doctor's questions, picking up my medication from the pharmacy. He speaks on us one day still having a child between the two of us. How could someone who I was married to want me to now play the side chick role? I feel devastated. I've never been cheated on prior to this, to my knowledge. But this year feels like exactly how it would feel if I did. I only asked for transparency from him. He could have told me he was seeing other people, and that would have been perfectly fine by me, because then it would have allowed me to 1. Not let him occupy my time and my space with me and my son. 2. Allowed for me not to be too attached to him and not turn down guys that I passed up on post-divorce. And 3. Continually hope for another chance at our future rather than being in a relationship or marriage again down the line, especially with talks of wanting to have a child with me, which I would always dismiss. I haven't slept since I found out. I barely can work. What is food? I don't know the word. I hate because I'm such a loving person, and I mean I love hard. So why me? I apologize for the book, but now here I stand. My family and friends told me not to blame myself, but I do. They said I'm diminishing the situation because there was no official title anymore between us. However, they told me it doesn't matter, a romantic relationship to our capacity was a relationship, title or not. And to betray my trust and possibly my sexual health as well as very much cheating. The lies, deceit, betrayal, and leading me on to believe we were something that we weren't to his benefit is, for lack of a better word, cheating. Reading stories here of others makes me recognize that I'm not alone. God, I wish I could just take a temporary amnesia vitamin or something to be able to forget he ever existed. Now I have an opinion from the community. Why get divorced if you are going to continue pretending to be a married couple? This is an unhealthy and dishonest way to live. Just deal with him concerning co-parenting and grab a life for yourself. Op replies, I waited all day to come back to see if there were any responses to the heartache I'm currently experiencing right now, because I knew Reddit could be harsh and even cruel sometimes in a you need a reality check blunt, no filter style way. I also didn't expect much sympathy under a thread titled Surviving Infidelity, either, since now I'm the one on the stand for questioning. The answer is simple: just love. No pretending. I just loved him, and we were hoping to possibly reconcile our relationship or marriage along the way. I did not recognize that was unhealthy or dishonest, but you're absolutely correct. He's clearly moved on with someone new, probably beautiful and amazing now, so I'll go grab me a life of my own as well, like you stated. We've got ourselves a case of divorce, but not really. First off, let's give a round of applause to your ex-husband for his Oscar-worthy performance in the role of I'm totally committed to you but also totally committed to someone else. Bravo, buddy, bravo. And let's not forget about your stellar performance in the role of I'll just ignore all the red flags and keep on loving you because love knows no bounds. Hey, we've all been there, right? Nothing like a good old-fashioned case of denial to keep the heartbreak at bay. But fear not, dear op, for you are not alone in this cesspool of betrayal and broken promises. You've got Reddit at your side, ready to offer up a reality check wrapped in a no-filter package, because sometimes tough love is the only kind of love that can break through the fog of denial and get you back on track.